Let me guess. You're spending more time managing emotions than growing your business. 1 minute, you're coaching your marketing manager through a meltdown, and the next, you're playing referee between your ops lead and your VA. Here's the truth. Drama is a leadership tax, and you don't have to keep paying it. Welcome to Female Founder Unplugged, the show where we cut through the noise and have a real, raw conversation about what it takes to build and scale a successful business as a female entrepreneur. I'm Lindsay White, people strategy expert, leadership coach, and fellow founder. And I know firsthand the challenges of scaling sustainably and staying connected to your passion along the way. This podcast is for ambitious women just like you, seasoned founders and CEOs navigating the challenges of leadership, team building, and sustainable growth. In each episode, we'll dive into those topics that are most important to you as a female founder. You'll hear honest, no BS conversations about building, growing, and leading a team and culture so that you can grow without losing yourself in the process. Because let's be real, entrepreneurship can feel isolating, and leadership doesn't come with a roadmap. If you've ever struggled with the pressure of running a business, felt overwhelmed by growing your team, or wondered, how do I scale without sacrificing my vision and my purpose, you're in the right place. Let's get unplugged. Hey, welcome back, my friend, to the Female Founder Unplugged. Glad to have you with us this week. We're going to be talking about the dreaded drama in a business and what we can do to detox from that, how we can lead without getting dragged into the chaos. So let's start off by talking about what the drama really is. Let's nail that down. What is it in a small and growing business that causes so much of this dreaded drama? First and foremost, this is about unspoken expectations. It is about accountabilities that we have often in our own head, but we've never been really clear about. It's also about unclear roles, people that don't understand exactly what it is they're meant to do. And it really is a breeding ground for drama in a growing business. And I'll give you a perfect example. I am working with an incredible growing organization founded by a female CEO. She is an expert in her field. She is globally respected for her leadership and her thoughts and what she's created. It's remarkable. But what's happened as this beautiful business has grown and expanded is that people have just picked up accountabilities. They picked up responsibilities. They've picked up tasks because it's like all these bouncing balls are in the air. And so people are just going along and they're doing the very best they can. They want to be helpful. So, that ball is bouncing. I better pick that ball up. And I can see that one over there. And that one, I better pick that up. It's starting to drop. And so what we end up having is a really great team. And in this organization, these people are experts. But what they've got is a mishmash of accountabilities and tasks and responsibilities. They're unclear. They don't know if they really have decision-making ability. They don't know if they really can impact. And oftentimes it's not the things that they do the best, right? They're just holding these balls because they know somebody needs to do them. So the drama really comes from this space of these unspoken expectations, these unclear roles, the lack of accountability, and that's what creates the drama. It can also be a really shared responsibility that we haven't truly clarified which parts belong to whom. So if we're going to work together, and a lot of our projects and programs, a lot of our delivery inside our small businesses is shared accountability. But if we are not really crystal clear on how to share that and who does what when, that's when we create the drama. So this is really not about people. And I think so often when we think about the drama and the toxicity in our organizations, we think about it being the individuals. And it's really not. It's about the systems. Actually, it's about the lack of systems. The drama really thrives in ambiguity. And when our team lacks clarity in their roles, when there is unclear channels of communication, or we're not actually talking about the important things, we're not asking those really challenging questions, That's problematic. When we don't have some shared values and we're not clear on how those inform our culture, that causes a lot of tension. And what happens is those small tensions spiral and they become full-blown emotional storms. And so I think that's really important, is that we need to think about how we, as the CEO, as the most senior leader in our business, can actually help our team. We can talk about the hard things and do it with dignity and grace and style and some humility, maybe some laughter. We can share what our values are. We can talk openly about things like integrity and kindness and intention, and really define what that means and how we're going to do that in our behaviors every day. We can really think and talk about what our roles are. And we can start with ourselves. What does it mean to be a CEO? What does that look like? What are the things I do? And then explaining that, talking about that with our team, asking them, what do you need from me? And I think that that is absolutely critical. One of the other things that I know gets in the way, and this is top of mind for me, I just finished another incredible positive intelligence boot camp with a group of the most powerful women. They were fabulous. But of course, we spent 8 weeks learning about our saboteurs, and then talking about our sage. And what happens is that often our saboteur really does hijack other people and their saboteurs. And we need to remember, we all have that shitty little voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not successful enough, we're not skinny enough, all of that head trash, right? That's what our saboteur tells us. And what often happens for high achieving women is we fall in a couple categories. And one of them in particular is the hyper achiever. Now, listen, there's nothing wrong with being a high achiever. We all want that. We all want to deliver and we want to be successful. It's when we tip the scales to the space where we're never successful enough, where we're never working hard enough, where we're never making enough money, where we never have enough recognition. That's the hyper achiever. And what that does when we have that saboteur and we are not managing it well, we actually then spill that over to our team so that they're not working hard enough. They're not achieving enough. They're not successful enough. They constantly think we are disappointed in them. Well, of course, that's not the truth. Because if you're like me and you're like my clients, you work with really incredible people who are real experts. That's why you hired them in the first place. But our behavior, our saboteur, because we think we're not doing it well enough or successful enough or fast enough, we convince them it's the same for them. We hijack them. The other one that gets us a lot is the pleaser, right? Where we're running around as the CEO and we're not being the chief executive officer. We're being the chief everything officer. We're trying to make everything okay for everybody. We're trying to please everyone around us, our clients, our vendors, our team, our family. And what ends up happening? We end up exhausted and overwhelmed, right? We get hooked into this fixer role. And the truth is that actually doesn't serve us. And as a card-carrying member of the people pleasers, we meet every Wednesday, bring wine. We need to have a mindset shift, right? We are the CEO. We are the chief executive officer. And that means that we are leading the business, that we are making executive and strategic level decisions. We are not in charge of how other people feel. Now, I am not in any way suggesting that you should not be deeply kind and very thoughtful, but it is not your job to babysit. And I think that's where we get into people pleaser mode. We are trying to make everyone feel okay all the time. And that's not possible. It's not our job to help people feel happy at work. I'm going to repeat that. It is not our job to make others feel happy at work. They get to choose happy. We create the environment. We create the culture. We create the workplace. They get to choose whether they're happy with us or not. So whether we are on the side of being a hyperachiever, where we're running around being a workaholic, trying to make everything awesome all the time, or we're in the people-pleasing space, or we're just trying to make everybody happy, what ends up happening in the end? We end up miserable. And in addition to that, we create and manifest the space for drama to develop. So what do we need to do? Well, first and foremost, we need to audit the drama. What's the pattern? Where does it live? Right? Like, where are we seeing this drama develop? Is it happening in a Slack channel or a Teams chat? Is it happening in between those conversations where there's gossipy stuff happening? Is it cropping up in our weekly meetings? Or, perhaps is it one team member that seems to be the source of a lot of this? We need to think very carefully and, again, very strategically as the CEO to audit the drama. What is actually happening? And I want to add here, park your personal beliefs. We all bring bias, and we want to make sure that our bias is not impacting the situation. So one of the things you may want to do is you may want to ask some questions of your team. Now, depending on the size of the team, that's not always possible. So maybe you want to ask some strategic people that you trust deeply. Okay, but audit the drama. That's number one. Number two is you want to make sure that you've installed really clear communication channels. So weekly meetings should come with agendas. What are you working on? You need to define escalation paths. So again, as the CEO of a growing business, you can't be the end all and be all when it comes to every problem. And again, I see this with some of my fractional clients, right? Where they've brought in a senior manager to help them run a part of the business. And we still have team members doing an end run straight to the CEO. Do not be that person. Do not be that CEO. Resist the urge to entertain that. Talk to the person. Acknowledge that there's a problem and that you appreciate they brought it to your attention. And then be clear about the escalation path, that they need to go to the senior manager first, or your OBM, or whatever it is. And you need to be clear about that in the moment. And then you need to clarify for the whole team, because if one person doesn't get it, probably more than one is struggling. Second, or the last piece here, is to document your expectations. So one of the first things I always do when I start working with a new client who has a lovely, established, growing business is I want to see job descriptions and an org chart. And I will tell you 99 times out of 100, they don't have those. Or they have job descriptions that are way out of date. So we need to make sure, what are these people accountable for? What is your expectation? We need to document that. And then you or your manager needs to be clear about relaying that information so that people understand what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, when they're supposed to escalate issues, and to whom. And that's going to clear up a lot of your drama. So I've already alluded to this, but this is number 3. You need to stop being the therapist. That's not your job. Your job is to be the CEO. So what do you need to do? You need to create boundaries, because your emotional labor as you counsel these people is extraordinary. That is 100% contributing to your burnout. I am not saying stop talking to people. I want to be clear about that. But what you are is their leader, not their savior. That's not your job. Okay. So these, again, you have hired really highly skilled, highly talented individuals. And most of them, I'm going to assume, are grown-ups. Grown-ups need to solve their own problems. Now, there certainly is a space for you to be a quality listener. And I believe that that is a completely underutilized leadership skill, listening. I want you to be a great listener. And then I want you to ask questions. Things like, so can you bottom line the problem for me? Or what's your idea in terms of solutions? Or what have you already tried here? What's worked? What's not worked? You need to put them back in the driver's seat so that they can be in charge of their own behavior and they can build and grow as a team. And you need to stop being the therapist. Number 4, and I say this over and over again, embed your values in your culture, right? You need to be very clear about what are your core values in your organization. What are the definitions of those? And then how do people live those values? What are the behaviors that you're looking for? And what that's going to do is align your team. It's also going to identify someone who does not have that value very quickly. And there's a different episode to talk about what you do there. But what we want to do is make sure that our culture is deeply rooted in those things that we care about most. Again, things like integrity and kindness and, being able to deliver high quality work. Those are things that are pretty common for most of my clients. I bet you could name a few others. If you need help with that, reach out. I can help you. When we have those values that everyone knows how they are going to execute on, that reduces drama right at the root of the problem. Because we're all on the same side and we get it and we know how to show up. And that really helps us manage the drama and the toxicity. Number 5, I'm going to be bold here. Have the damn conversation. Train your team and yourself on how to have brave, kind, and productive conflict. I like to call it productive tension, but you need to lead here more than anywhere else. You probably have one of these conversations you've been avoiding, and you need to have it. Lean in. Embrace that it's difficult and it's awkward. Acknowledge that. Enter the conversation and say that. Hey, Tracy, I need to talk to you about something that's really hard in terms of your performance. And I feel really awkward about it. This is really difficult for me, and I'm sure it's probably going to be difficult for you, but we need to do this. And I want to give you the really straight feedback so we can talk about how we can do things differently around here. I'm telling you, it's that simple. You just get started, but you need to have the damn conversation, because when you don't, you're causing the drama. I know it's like a dagger to the heart, my friend, but you are absolutely causing a lot of the problem. If this episode felt like I was calling you out, if this hit you in the heart, I want you to send me a message with the subject line of drama. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you my free drama detox checklist. It's all of these things, all of these questions, so you don't have to scribble down notes. I've got it all for you. And it really is about these 5 ways to lead with clarity instead of contributing to the chaos. Because my friend, that's what you're doing. And if you know it's time to step into your CEO role, if you felt really called out today and you know it's time, then let's talk about the LPC Accelerator. This is my new high-touch small group program. It is all about helping business owners just like you, female CEOs who are growing and scaling rapidly and struggling a little bit with that transformation. Do that with grace and style. It's about creating the people strategy you need, helping you be the best leader you can be, and creating a culture that puts out the drama, puts it to bed. It's exactly the kind of thing we solve, is this type of drama and toxicity. That's what we do in the accelerator together. Awesome. Okay, well, until next time, my friend, lead with heart, grow with purpose, and stay high voltage. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Female Founder Unplugged. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on Instagram at High Volt Leadership and send me your questions or let me know your biggest takeaway. Looking for more strategies on scaling your business, building a powerhouse team, or leading with confidence? Head over to highvoltageleadership.ca or follow me on LinkedIn for exclusive content, resources, and special offers just for listeners. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and remember, the real magic happens when you're unplugged.